Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Anna Vanila Arts. I am Anna Vanila, and in this video I am showing you another stitch from my collection of stitches and patterns and all sorts of things creative, from crocheting to knitting and so on. So you are welcome to watch this video and learn how to do this. In case you don't know this stitch, you'll know how to do it. If you know purl stitches and front stitches, you'll be able to do this stitch easily. Especially if you're a beginner, this stitch will be very easy for you to do, because the level of knowledge in this pattern is equal to none. So I've got needles number 5. The yarn is acrylic yarn. I've got 18 loops, 18 stitches on my needle. So the first loop we do not need, so we pass it on to the right needle as always. By the way, I've forgotten to mention that you can cast on in the style, in the way you like it. It doesn't matter how you do it, how you know how to do it. But the second and the third row, I would advise you to do the front stitch on the first row and front stitch on the back row on the second row, to also do front stitches, because this way it stops the edge of your garment curling up, so it stops from being wavy and uneven. And this way it's straight and nice and organized with stitches pretty well. So I would advise you to do that. And so the first loop we do not need, and then we need one purl stitch. Second, we need the front stitch, not the last stitch, but the stitch below the last stitch. So it's the second row underneath. So you get one hole here from the first loop and 2 holes here on the first loop. So you just go down 1 loop, 1 row, and knit it with a front stitch, and then we release. So purl stitch, 1 purl stitch, and 1 we knit underneath, front stitch, purl stitch, front stitch, purl stitch, front stitch, purl stitch, front stitch. So this is what we make. We make this pattern here. It contains 6 rows and is easy to make, easy to do, but you need not to make a mistake in the first couple of rows, and you will be able to have this stitch. So the last loop we always use it as a purl stitch. So this is the back. Now we do not need the first loop as usual. We need 1 purl stitch, and in this instance, when you do this pattern, when you see front stitches, you always need them underneath, you always need below, you always need the second row below the needle. so we knit it with a front stitch, even if it's a back, because the wrong side is always, even if you do front stitches on the wrong side, you also have to knit underneath it, and then you release it. Purl stitch, front stitch, purl stitch, front stitch. So when you see front stitches, you knit the front stitch one below. So front stitch, purl stitch, front stitch, purl stitch, last one. Reverse the work. So that was the second row. Now it's the third row. So we do not need the first loop. The third row we knit it the same way. So purl stitch, and the front in this stitch we knit it one row below, so underneath. Purl stitch, one row below, purl stitch, one row below, front stitch, one row below, and you knit it to the end of this row. This is the third row. Reverse the work. Now fourth row we knit the same way, so we knit purl stitch and then one below front stitch, purl stitch, one below front stitch, purl stitch, front stitch, purl stitch, front stitch, purl stitch, front stitch, until the end of this row. What is easy about this pattern is because it's repeatable, so you repeat the same steps as many times as you need for this pattern. And so the first one we do not need, the first loop. This is the fifth row, so again we knit what we see, so purl stitch and then the row below, purl stitch, front stitch, below, purl stitch, front stitch, below, front stitch, purl stitch, front stitch, purl stitch, and we knit until the end. And then we move on to sixth row. Sixth row is the last row of this kind of stretchy elasticated band which we see here. So we do not need the first loop. We see purl stitch, we need purl stitch, and the front stitch we need it as before. Second row, purl stitch, front stitch, below, purl stitch, and we do so on until the end of this row. Then we need to change, so this is the sixth row. Now we need to start another row, another 6 rows with even more. Now this is, we've knitted the 6th row. Now we start another row, which is the first row but of a different pattern, which is even more simple to make. It's all front stitches and all purl stitches. So we need 6 rows of front stitches and purl stitches. So what we do, on the front we knit all the loops, all the stitches with a front stitch. On the back we knit all of the stitches with a purl stitch, and that's how we do it for 6 rows. So first loop we do not knit, and then every loop we knit it with a front stitch, everything with a front stitch until the end of this row, and the last loop we always knit it with a purl stitch. So this is front stitch, everything front stitches, purl stitch at the end, the last one, then we reverse and we knit everything on the back on the wrong side with purl stitches. So first loop we do not knit, and we knit all of them purl stitches, purl stitches. It's easy to make this pattern because it's repeatable, it's easy for beginners to do this. It's absolutely easy and it's very pretty. I remember making a beanie out of it, out of this pattern, and it was very nice. So we needed 2 rows. The first row was front stitches, the second row was all purl stitches. Now we need to knit third row all front stitches, fourth row all purl stitches, and fifth row we knit all front stitches, and sixth row all purl stitches, and then we meet up and I'll show you how to do next. So I finished 6 rows. I've knitted 6 rows of front stitches and purl stitches. Now what we need to do is repeat again how we started this stitch. So we begin to do this side of stretchy band. So the first loop we do not knit. We knit the first loop with a purl stitch because that's how we knit it here, below also with a purl stitch, and then the front stitch you go down 1 row, so you do not knit the first, which one is on the needle. You knit the second row below, you grab the yarn and you knit it below. Then we do 1 purl stitch and 1 row below front stitch, purl stitch below, purl stitch 1 below, purl stitch 1 below, purl stitch 1 down, 1 below, purl stitch 1 below, and the purl stitch last one. Then we reverse the work and repeat the same thing. So this is the second row of the elastic band which we need to repeat. So we see purl stitch, knit purl stitch, we see front stitch, but we do not knit the front stitch which is on the needle but below the needle, second row below. So purl stitch, then front stitch below, purl stitch, 1 stitch below, and you repeat all over again the 3rd row, 4th row, 5th row, 6th row, and then we repeat another 6 rows, but all with just front stitches and purls. And then so basically we start knitting what's here, what's this these lines. And it's very good, this pattern, for hats, for vest, for a sweater, pullover, whatever you think about. You can experiment with different yarns, different needle sizes, and you can play around and do and create interesting things. And I absolutely love this stitch. It's simple, but it's very cute, it's very unique. I think it's awesome. So thank you very much for watching and subscribing and for liking my videos. Thank you so much for your support, for your like. Please tag me if you do any projects with my patterns, with my stitches. I'll be glad if you are able to use my patterns, my stitches, and see you soon in my next videos. So thank you very much for watching and subscribing and liking my video, and I send you lots of love and good luck in your projects. Bye.